Welcome, everyone, to the Party Animal Podcast, episode number 3, House Parties.
Sure.
I'm Thomas. And, I've always been kind of fascinated by the whole house party scene. It's like this double-edged sword, right? On one hand, it feels like the ultimate freedom, just pure fun. But then flip it over, and wow, the potential for things to go sideways. Legally, personally, it's huge. We're going to get into that today, looking at how easily good times can turn into, well, big problems when crowds get involved.
And I'm Luna. Yeah. Our plan today is really to break down that turning point. We've got some source material that tells a really compelling story. It's almost like a perfect example of the choices people face.
Right.
And alongside that, we've got a more structured look at the actual risks. So we'll be exploring that magnetic pull of a big party versus the, frankly, serious consequences that can stick around long after the last person leaves.
Exactly. Our mission here is to give you, the listener, a kind of shortcut to understanding this whole environment. Not just the fun side, which is obvious, but the less obvious stuff. The liability, the group dynamics, and crucially, what you can actually do to prevent things from going wrong.
Yeah, how to keep the good parts while understanding how to dodge the serious trouble, the regrets.
Because, let's be honest, most house parties don't fall apart because someone deliberately sets out to wreck the place.
Right.
Usually it's more about hosts and guests just underestimating things.
Definitely. Underestimating how crowds behave, underestimating the legal weight, especially in, an uncontrolled space.
Okay, so to really get a feel for this, let's dive into a specific scenario. Our sources highlighted this story about 3 friends up in Bridgewater, Connecticut.
Ah, yes, Bridgewater.
So try to picture this place. Bridgewater, it's described as, an affluent town. And apparently it developed this whole culture around these pretty extravagant house parties. What really struck me from the sources was how they described them starting. Not like formal invites or anything. They just sort of, quote, materialized out of thin air.
Yeah, that phrase really captures it, doesn't it? That almost magical, spontaneous feeling. That's a huge part of why people get drawn in, I think. It feels exclusive, immediate.
Totally. That FOMO, fear of missing out, kicks in hard.
And the way the news spread wasn't word of mouth in the old sense. It was like wildfire through social media. Boom, suddenly everyone knows there's this potentially amazing night happening.
Right. Music, dancing, the promise of, well, the sources said an atmosphere where inhibitions melted away and risks were taken without hesitation.
Oof, yeah. That specific part, risks taken without hesitation. That's kind of the core issue, isn't it? It sounds exciting, but it's basically giving people permission to be, well, reckless.
And the hosts weren't just like putting out chips and dip. They were known for organizing these legendary gatherings. They were actively creating that specific vibe.
Which then creates this big dilemma for anyone who hears about it. And that brings us neatly to the 3 friends in the story, Nicole, Maya, and Vanessa. Their situation really shines a light on that fork in the road people hit when deciding, do I go to this massive, maybe out of control thing or not?
Okay, let's break them down. First, there's Nicole. She's kind of the voice of caution here.
The cautious one.
She'd heard the stories swirling around these parties, and they weren't pretty. Tales of, excessive drinking, substance abuse, just general recklessness. She was worried about their well-being, making responsible choices. She's the anchor, thinking long-term.
Right. Then you've got Maya, totally opposite end of the spectrum. She was completely drawn in by the whole thing. The source says she was captivated by the thrill of the unknown.
Ah, the thrill seeker.
Exactly. She wanted to live life to the fullest. And for her, that meant chasing the adrenaline rush that came with taking risks. The party wasn't just a party. It was like the experience to have right now, unmissable.
Okay, and then smack in the middle, you have Vanessa. And this is where it gets super relatable for, I think, a lot of people.
Yeah, Vanessa's the one who's torn.
Totally torn. Struggling between wanting to fit in, wanting that social approval, and hearing this little nagging voice of caution inside.
Yeah.
That pressure to belong, even when your gut's telling you maybe it's not a great idea, that's powerful stuff.
Incredibly powerful. So the sources paint this picture of them basically standing there, facing this huge decision, go towards the party, the excitement, the legendary night, or, play it safe. Prioritize their well-being.
And sounds like the pressure was really building. But then Nicole, she kind of stepped up. The source calls it a moment of clarity. She spoke up, but this time with a resolute voice. Not just expressing worry, but really urging them to stop and think about the consequences.
And that's where you see the strength of their friendship, actually. Because Maya, who was all set to jump into the risk, she actually listened. The source says the spell of excitement was broken for a moment. Nicole's words about safety actually landed. And Vanessa. She was probably relieved someone else made the call.
Yeah, like the pressure valve released.
Exactly. She realized that sticking together, looking out for each other, that was way more important than chasing this temporary high at some potentially risky party.
And I love what they did instead. They didn't just sit around feeling like they missed out. They actively chose an alternative.
Right. They steered clear completely, went over to Vanessa's place, and what did they do? Watched movies, played games, just connected.
Simple stuff. Real connection.
And that's the big insight they had, according to the source. They realized the true essence of a memorable evening wasn't about crazy adventures or taking risks. It was about the actual connection, the shared time they valued as friends.
It's not just a nice little moral. It's like a psychological truth, isn't it? Real satisfaction comes from genuine bonds, not trying to impress a crowd with how reckless you can be.
Precisely. Which takes us right back to the party they didn't go to and the aftermath. Because, as it turned out, Nicole's worries were spot on.
Yeah, the story goes that the next day, the news started spreading. And it wasn't about how amazing the party was.
Nope, it was all stories of property damage, confrontations, and even legal repercussions. The fun evaporated pretty quickly and turned into a real mess.
Okay, so this is where we pivot a bit. We leave the story for a moment and really dig into the analysis of the risks involved. Let's start with the big one. Hosts often underestimate the legal side. The liability.
Oh, it's massive. The main thing is what's often called legal responsibility, or more formally, social host liability. In a lot of places, if you host a party, you can be held legally responsible for injuries or harm that happens there.
Especially if alcohol's involved, right? And minors.
Absolutely critical points. If you serve alcohol, or even if you just know minors are drinking on your property and don't stop it, your liability skyrockets. We're talking about responsibility for accidents, fights, assaults.
Even stuff that happens after they leave. Like if someone drives drunk.
Yes, potentially. If it can be shown the host was negligent in serving an obviously intoxicated person or allowed underage drinking that contributed to the accident, they can be sued. And hosts are often seen as having the deepest pockets in these situations. It can be financially devastating.
Wow. Okay, so that's the personal injury side.
Yeah.
What about the place itself? The house?
Right, property damage. This is almost inevitable with big, uncontrolled parties. We're not just talking a spilled drink on the carpet. Think broken furniture, holes in walls, vandalism, personal belongings getting destroyed.
Things getting stolen.
That too, which we'll get to. But just the physical damage alone can be incredibly costly. And here's the kicker. Your standard homeowner's insurance might not even cover damage that happens while you're, say, facilitating underage drinking, because that's often considered an illegal act excluded from policies.
So you could be completely on the hook for repairs. Yikes. And it starts even before damage happens, with just the noise?
Noise complaints. A classic. Loud parties, annoying neighbors, that's a given. But it goes beyond annoyance. It can lead to official complaints, police visits, fines, and seriously damage your relationship with the people living around you.
You have to follow local noise rules. Ignoring them is basically asking for the authorities to show up.
And once the police are there, they're not just looking at the noise. They're looking at everything else, underage drinking, potential fights. It escalates the stakes immediately.
Okay, and you mentioned theft earlier. How does that fit in?
Well, large, chaotic gatherings can unfortunately be magnets for people who aren't there just to socialize. The source mentions individuals with malicious intent. Big crowds provide cover.
So theft or property crimes become a real risk. People might find their wallets, phones, or valuables missing. Or cars parked outside get broken into. Vandalism happens. The chaos makes it easy for thieves to operate.
It's a whole layer of risk beyond just accidental damage.
Okay, so that covers the legal and property fallout.
Yeah.
Let's shift to the immediate physical dangers. Personal safety.
Yeah, this is where it gets visceral. The source breaks down several key risks here, starting with the most severe. Violence or assault.
Fights breaking out.
Exactly. In an uncontrolled environment, especially when fueled by alcohol or drugs, inhibitions drop. Misunderstandings flare up. Egos clash. The risk of physical fights, serious altercations, even assaults goes way, way up.
And these aren't just scuffles. They can lead to severe injuries, life-changing consequences, or even, tragically, fatalities.
It's the lack of control, the lack of oversight that lets things escalate so dangerously. And tied into that very seriously is the risk of sexual assault and harassment.
A huge concern at parties.
A critical one. Parties with excessive drinking can, unfortunately, create environments where assaults or harassment are more likely. Impaired judgment on all sides, difficulty in communicating or recognizing consent, It's a dangerous mix. Lack of supervision makes it worse.
And the consumption itself carries direct risks.
Absolutely. Alcohol poisoning. This isn't just having a bad hangover, it's a medical emergency. Someone drinking way too much, way too fast can literally poison their system. It needs immediate medical help.
And in a chaotic party, is a host even going to notice or know what to do?
That's the danger. Recognizing the signs and acting fast is crucial, but it's incredibly difficult when you're trying to manage a huge, noisy crowd. The responsibility falls on the host, but the environment makes it hard to fulfill.
And underpinning so many of these issues is the problem of underage drinking.
It's foundational. The consequences are layered. First, you have the impaired judgment it causes in minors, which leads directly to accidents, fights, risky behavior, property damage, all the things we've talked about.
Plus the legal side again.
Big time. Huge legal trouble, not just for the kids, but potentially severe consequences for the host if they provided the alcohol or knowingly allowed minors to drink on their property. Social host laws are often much stricter when minors are involved. The liability just explodes.
Okay, so the consequences are clear legal nightmares, property destruction, serious physical harm. But why do things spiral? What is it about the social dynamics and the environment itself that turns fun into, well, chaos?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's rarely one single thing, but a combination of factors inherent in these large, uncontrolled gatherings.
The source points to the crowded and chaotic atmosphere itself as a starting point.
Yeah, think about it physically. When a house is packed way beyond its comfortable capacity, personal space just disappears. You're constantly bumping into people, getting jostled. There's no room to breathe.
That alone creates tension.
Exactly. It creates physical stress, which easily turns into emotional stress. A little bump or a spilled drink, which might be nothing in a relaxed setting, suddenly feels like a provocation when you're already feeling crowded and on edge. Misunderstandings happen way faster.
And then you layer on the social pressures. Peer pressure and group dynamics. We saw Vanessa struggling with this.
That intense desire to fit in, to look cool, to get approval from the group, it can make people do things they wouldn't normally do. Act recklessly, maybe join in teasing someone, or worse, feel like they have to step up if a conflict starts, just to save face.
It's like performing for the crowd.
Totally. Risk-taking becomes a way to gain status within that temporary group. Critical thinking goes out the window, and group approval becomes the main driver. This connects directly to what the sources call egos and machismo.
The need to assert dominance.
Yeah. Especially when alcohol lowers inhibitions, some people feel this compulsion to assert themselves or demonstrate dominance. A perceived slight isn't just a slight anymore. It's a challenge to their status or ego in front of everyone.
So a small thing blows up instantly.
Instantly. It becomes a public contest they feel they have to win, regardless of how stupid it is or what the consequences might be. The crowd watches, maybe even eggs them on, and suddenly you have a serious physical fight over practically nothing.
And facilitating all of this escalation is often just a basic lack of oversight. Insufficient security measures.
Precisely. Especially with those parties that just materialize, there's usually no plan for security. No designated sober people watching out, no one managing the door, no responsible adults present, or if they are, they're overwhelmed, or maybe even participating.
So when a conflict does start,
there's no one there to step in quickly and calmly to de-escalate it. A small argument that could have been diffused just explodes because there's no safety net, no friction to slow it down.
So putting it all together, Nicole, Maya, and Vanessa's decision makes even more sense. Nicole wasn't just being vaguely worried. She was likely sensing this potential convergence.
Yeah, the potential for that crowded chaos, plus the peer pressure, plus the egos, all happening in a place with zero effective supervision. It was a recipe for trouble.
They basically chose a low-risk, controlled environment focused on connection over a high-probability, high-risk scenario.
They opted out of the environment where the variables crowd size, alcohol aggression were almost guaranteed to spiral.
Okay, Luna, we have painted a pretty grim picture of the risks, and they are real. But let's be fair. House parties wouldn't be so popular, so enduring, if there weren't also some genuine pros, right? Why do people keep throwing them and keep going to them? We need to balance this out.
Absolutely. It's crucial because the upsides are significant. That's why people take the risks in the first place. Probably the biggest one is socializing and connection.
Just hanging out?
Yeah. It's usually a much more relaxed, informal vibe than, say, a loud club or a stuffy bar. It feels easier to actually talk to people, meet new friends, build connections in that kind of low-pressure setting.
And you get to control the vibe, too. the personalized atmosphere.
Totally. If you're the host, you pick the music, the decorations, the lighting. You craft the whole experience. It feels more unique, more comfortable, more yours than any public venue could.
That makes sense. And then there's the practical side. Money. They're usually way cheaper, right? Cost effectiveness.
Oh, massively. That's a huge draw. Think about it. No cover charge. Drinks are usually way cheaper. Maybe it's BYOB, bring your own beverage. You save on potentially expensive bar tabs. Even getting there might be cheaper if it's local. Compared to a night out at bars or clubs, it can save a lot of cash.
And that flexibility goes beyond cost. You also get flexibility and customization in the event itself.
Right. You're not tied to a venue's opening hours or rigid rules. You can decide the timing, have a specific theme, plan games or activities that you know your friends will actually enjoy. Much more adaptable.
You just have to follow the actual laws, like noise ordinances we mentioned.
Of course, within legal boundaries. And finally, there's a big psychological plus. Privacy and comfort.
Feeling at ease.
Exactly. Being in someone's home, a familiar space, often feels safer and more comfortable than being in a public place full of strangers. Guests can relax more, be themselves, maybe let their guard down a bit, which again helps with making genuine connections.
Okay, so connection, personalization, cost, flexibility, comfort. Those are pretty compelling reasons. But we can't just gloss over the host side of the coin again. Even if the party goes well, there are unavoidable downsides to being the organizer.
Oh, absolutely. Let's call them the practical realities. First and foremost, the cleanup and maintenance.
The morning after.
Yeah. It's the inevitable price. Sticky floors, spills, trash everywhere, maybe stains, maybe things broken even accidentally. Just getting the place back to normal takes serious time and effort. It's the host's party tax.
And even during the party, the host carries the mental weight of security and safety concerns.
Always. Even if things stay calm, the host is constantly, or should be constantly, aware. Who's coming in? Is anyone drinking too much? Are those two people arguing? Is everything okay? You have to have an emergency plan in the back of your mind. It's a huge responsibility, and frankly, it can stop the host from actually enjoying their own party.
It's work.
It really is. And related to that is the nightmare of guest list management. You think you invited 50 people.
And 100 show up.
Exactly. Friends bring friends who bring friends. Suddenly, your carefully planned vibe is overwhelmed. Trying to manage numbers, make sure people generally get along, keep unwanted guests out, it's incredibly challenging, get the balance wrong, and the whole night can tip from fun into stressful chaos very quickly.
Okay, so we had this constant tension. Real benefits versus very real risks and logistical headaches. This brings us to the most practical part. What can hosts actually do to tip the scales towards safety and fun? What are the key preventative measures?
This is where the sources offer a clear roadmap. It's about shifting from hoping for the best to actively managing the risks. Step 1, establish clear rules.
Set expectations up front.
Yes, before the party even starts or as people arrive. Communicate the ground rules, what's acceptable, what's not, especially explicitly state a zero tolerance for violence or aggressive behavior. Make the boundaries crystal clear.
Okay, rules are set. What about the biggest catalyst for problems, alcohol?
Alcohol monitoring is critical. Hosts need to be proactive here. It's not just about providing alcohol, it's about encouraging responsible drinking.
Provide lots of appealing non-alcoholic options, make them visible and easy to get. Maybe limit the amount of hard liquor available or don't have an open unattended bar. Slow down the pace of consumption. Don't create an environment that screams, drink as much as possible.
Makes sense. And what about managing conflicts or potential dangers directly?
This requires providing security or supervision. Now, this doesn't always mean hiring bouncers, especially for smaller parties, but it does mean designating specific, responsible, sober adults whose job it is to keep an eye on things.
Like designated watchers.
Exactly. Someone monitoring the door, someone circulating, someone whose focus is safety, not partying. This layer of sober oversight is probably the single biggest factor in preventing escalation.
And if those watchers see something brewing,
they need to address potential conflicts early. Don't wait for punches to be thrown. The strategy is immediate de-escalation. Step in calmly, separate the people involved, talk to them, maybe guide them outside for fresh air or towards another responsible person. Early intervention is key. Stuff the snowball before it starts rolling downhill. Okay, rules? Alcohol monitoring, supervision, early intervention, anything else?
Yes, fostering the right overall environment. Promote a safe and respectful atmosphere just through how you act as a host and the vibe you set. And crucially, ensure emergency awareness.
People need to know what to do if something bad does happen.
Right. Where's the first aid kit? Who's the go-to person if someone's sick or hurt? How do you call for help, police, ambulance quickly and effectively? Make sure guests know this, or at least the designated supervisors do. These steps aren't party killers. They're what allow the fun to happen safely. They show the host is taking responsibility seriously.
You know, thinking about all this really puts the Bridgewater story in perspective again. Nicole, Maya, and Vanessa's choice wasn't just about avoiding drinking. It was a smart, pragmatic decision based on assessing these very risk factors.
Yeah, they likely sensed that the particular party they were considering was missing too many of these safety elements. No clear rules, probably uncontrolled alcohol, definitely no effective supervision.
Yeah.
It was high risk. They chose safety and real connection instead.
And ultimately, they had the memorable, positive evening.
Which reinforces the main lesson from the sources. True strength lay in prioritizing their well-being and embracing each other's safety over the allure of risky escapades. It sounds a bit dramatic, but it's true.
Yeah, and that final quote from the source really sticks. Choose wisely, for the thrill of the moment shouldn't overshadow the potential consequences that linger in the shadows.
Because those consequences, legal, financial, physical, emotional, can linger for a very, very long time. The best parties are the ones you remember fondly, not the ones that end with police reports or trips to the ER.
Absolutely. So house parties can be fantastic for connecting with people, but it always comes down to managing those variables: the size, the vibe, the supervision. Both hosts and guests have a role. So the thought I want to leave you, the listener, with is this. Thinking about your next party, whether you're hosting or attending, what's one simple, concrete step you could take to put one of these preventative measures in place?
Could be anything, really.
Maybe it's making sure there are genuinely good non-alcoholic options right next to the beer. Maybe it's having a quiet chat with a friend beforehand and agreeing to be the sober watchers together. Just one small thing can make a difference.
Every conscious choice helps balance that scale between fun and safety.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Party Animal Podcast. Make sure to check back in for future episodes, and please click that like button, turn on notifications, and subscribe to help this podcast bring more awareness to others while enjoying an amazing time, minus the pitfalls. Be safe out there.